Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 31 of Egginburgh, our Cities Skylines 2 build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It's the first time we've been in this city since the Economy 2.0 patch, and indeed the surprise detailers update as well. So we have a big economy fix. We're going to bring in a bunch of the new service buildings and adjust our tax rates and see if we can balance out, whilst also leaving the tile upkeep on, as I would at least like try to leave it in one city, even though I'm not a huge fan of the mechanic. We'll see if we can get it to work in Edinburgh. As you can tell, the city is dying everywhere. So let's wait for this initial death wave to pass, and then we'll see if we can fix Edinburgh's economy in this brand new patch, shall we? So whilst the dead are being collected, I'd just like to take a look at our economy tab and see what we can see. So Edinburgh's tile upkeep is 28 million, which is a ton. And we've also got a ton in service upkeep as well. Now, our taxes are still coming down to be in line with the new economy patch, and all these tax rates we set essentially at the start of the city. This was all pre-economy 2.0, so none of this really matters anymore. So I think we'll bring everything back to a baseline. Let's come down to 10% for all tax rates. So most of our money is actually coming from commercial, isn't it? Well, pretty much all of our money, actually. And then in terms of service upkeeps, we are paying the most for education, and, and nearly 3 million on parks. That is a sign of overcharged Egg City, isn't it? How are we spending 3 million on parks? I guess there is a lot of them, but even then, 3 million seems a bit extreme. I wonder if that's counting our unique buildings as parks, such as this build over here. I bet it is, isn't it? Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's giving outdoor recreation, so this will definitely be a park building. And it's essentially 300,000 with total upkeep. And then about things like the National Art Gallery. Yeah, it's 176k. Yeah, okay, so we've used a lot of the unique buildings. I can see how that'll add up. And with those tax rate changes, it brings us down to a million, pretty much a million deficit, doesn't it? So now we have those tax rates set. Let's come back into our service tabs. So we're not spending that much on roads. Let's address our largest issues first. So efficiency will affect the attractiveness value of the buildings. I don't think I'm massively bothered about that. I imagine all that's going to affect is our happiness, and our Sims are incredibly happy. If anything, they're too happy. They could do with being a little bit less content with their lives. So that'll trim 1.1 million off there straight away. With that education, of course, we now have a bunch of new education buildings, although I'm pretty sure Edinburgh is in absolutely enormous education deficits. It really is. So trimming the education budget is only going to make this worse, and that's something we need to fix. So I don't really want to start cutting funding from education for the city. After that, we're down to healthcare, which, granted, at the minute, healthcare is a bit of an issue with all the dead. It looks like the warnings are starting to clear up, especially this side of the city. But definitely in the inner cities, it's not doing too great, is it? And I imagine the things like our medical university. And again, is this going to be an education expense? It probably is, isn't it? I guess more like the hospital is probably more appropriate. Yeah, so we're paying 500,000 for a hospital that has that has 19 patients, so that's definitely not okay. Let's see if we can remove some of these upgrades and just see if that starts to bring our medical budget down a little bit. But let's remove everything because it's obviously not needed. So that brings us down to 478 grand, which is still pretty expensive, but a lot less than it was. And hopefully that will start to affect our deficits a little bit here. Yeah, we've already brought those service upkeeps down by 2 million, haven't we, just with those changes. But either way, let's continue to let the city run with those new service budgets in and just give it a couple of months for the new economy patches to balance out, and we'll also get those new tax rates embedded into the economy as well, and then see just how screwed Edinburgh's economy is. So we'll be right back. So the death is slowly subsiding in Edinburgh, so let's now return to our economy. So we're actually down to 585,000 lost now. It's certainly coming down, which is good. So let's return to our services. So we'll start with electricity, where we are actually making a profit here. We are overfunding. Now, I'm pretty sure we're also overproducing. Yeah, we've got quite a bit of overproduction there, haven't we? So let's first of all bring that slider back down. Let's come back to 100%. And again, because our Sims are so super happy, I reckon we can get away with increasing the service fee. So let's go for 130, and then let's see how that affects our outputs. So we're still all right. Of course, we're also exporting a little bit too. So anything we reduce is also going to reduce the export, which will affect our income ever so slightly. But hopefully now, yeah, making 172 grand from electricity. We are not making much from water though, so I'd love to have a look what's going on with that. So we're making quite a lot of, well, a huge overproduction actually, but we're not exporting any of it, are we? So why don't we do that? Let's grab our water pipes, and I would like to set up some water exports. So where do we have them? Let's come under here. We could, the pumping station here. So how about we just grab it from this line, and we'll push this out to the outside connection. There we go, that does set it up. Now all of these should be connected. We should start trading now. Yeah, there we go. So hopefully that's going to start making us a bit of money on the export. Might take a second or two to kick in there. But either way, we could possibly reduce the budget even further. And I think because we do have just an absolutely mad overproduction, why don't we remove the initial water pump over here? Because I don't think it's really needed anymore. And I guess while we're also here, we could remove the small coal plant as well, which I think we will do. So let's get rid of that and get rid of this one as well. And because we do have pretty insane industrial demand, I think we'll replace that big power plant we had with just some classic zoned industry over here. Because of course we are near the port, so I'd like to maintain a lot of those chunkier industrial assets. That should do. And whilst we do have the mods available now, we will also upgrade into the little retaining walls around the edge of the port here. Fantastic. So that will bring some service upkeeps down as well, which is very nice. And hopefully we'll start to see... Oh yeah, okay, there we go. There's that water export coming in now. So returning to its funding, we're still making an absolute ton of it, aren't we? And we could possibly go for another increase in service fees. So those high electricity fees are now giving us -2. So why don't we explore also bringing the service fee up for the water? We'll go for 130% again, and I'm also going to reduce the funding down to 90. That should just help to balance everything out a little bit more. We could go even further than that, but we can revisit it just in case we need to reclaim some money from elsewhere. But that'll certainly help anyway. Furthermore, let's come down. So we've done electricity and water. Healthcare is the next major one, isn't it? So let's have a little look at healthcare. So we have a lot of healthcare availability, almost too much actually. Now I'm pretty sure we had a tweet. Oh look, Anthony got hired at Chemtrail Chemicals. Anthony got a new job. Did he finally grow up? Anthony is a teenager working at a chemical company. Let's check out where John is at. John's working at Snafu Insurance. Of course, these are our patrons. A few of them have died as well. They must have died off in the death wave. Lucara is also working at the same company as Anthony. How interesting. I wonder if he got him in there. A little bit of nepotism amongst the patrons, perhaps. But anyway, before we get further distracted, let's also return now to our medical care. So let's have a look at all the medical facilities we have across the city. There is a lot of them, isn't there? So I think we can probably remove some. Like, we've got 2 med clinics here in super close proximity. That's just not really needed, is it? So let's delete this one. We'll entirely reclaim that fee. Well, there's another one here, wasn't there? And then let's remove this one as well, and we'll replace it with one of the small clinics, because I wouldn't like to have, at least keep some kind of sense of realism. You know, I'd like at least every town to have its basic services, even though it can probably do without them. Holy crap. How many people just came out of that med clinic? What the hell? How many people were in there? I did not check that. Anyway, they seem to be okay now. Hopefully they've got all their treatment. And where we do have a little bit of space, we'll let some commercial grow in there too. So that gets rid of that one. Let's continue to reduce the upkeeps. That's pretty much it for this side, isn't it? How about this one over here? This is our very first med clinic, which does have 33 patients in, and it's got 7 out of its 10 ambulances. Cool. It has all of its upgrades. We could possibly remove an extension wing, though. I don't think it needs that much capacity, does it? And yeah, I guess we don't need that other extension wing either, do we? It's just more upkeep. Yeah, see, we still got 100 capacity there. Where we have removed those assets, let's come back in here. So I did remember when we first started Whiskey, I said that I would try and upzone this area as much as possible. We haven't done that for a while. So let's bring in some high density commercial to replace that extension wing there. There is also another med clinic over in Lower Bourbon, where we could possibly have a look what's going on over here. Yeah, like 5 people and 0 vehicles in use, so you're just not needed at all, really, are you? Like, literally no need. Let's just replace this whole block here with low density commercial on the edge of town. We have a lot of Strode vibes going on here. Yeah, so let's have that commercial come back in. I'm happy with that there. That removes an entire clinic, doesn't it? So we do have this Health Research Institute in Inverness, don't we? Which is operating at 121% efficiency. Interesting that the mail handling is actually affecting the efficiency of the hospital there, isn't it? How interesting. I haven't realised that before. We can't get rid of this, though. This is a real big feature of Inverness. And again, there's another med clinic right behind it, isn't there? So, I mean, does this function as a clinic? Doesn't, does it? It's just, I think it's actually an education building, is it? I think it might be. So let's remove this clinic here. And then I don't like the way that's just kind of naked behind the asset now. So why don't we use that as an opportunity to bring in some of the new parks? Let's go. Let me get in one of these passage parks, I wonder. That's quite nice, isn't it? Although, floating fence, is that supposed to be like that? Not actually entirely sure. And then let's also bring a little pathway through here too. Let's snap to existing geometry. We'll turn Anarchy on angle and just see if we can extend that pathway out. People can walk around the grounds where you would expect them to. And we'll also chuck in a few trees as well for good measure. I was a fan of the oaks. Fabulous. And that should hopefully just extend the grounds around the back of what is a pretty important building in Inverness. I think we can have that there, doesn't it? Kind of really blends in like part of the hospital ground there now, doesn't it? I think I'm pretty happy with that, actually. Tremendous. So that takes care of that one. Jesus, what's going on over here? Major car crashes. Where did you guys crash from? There's a sound barrier here. I don't even know where they came from. Anyway, let's not get distracted even further. So more medical stuff. Let's bring back our info views here. So we still have just insane capacity for it. Now I think that's all the ones we can remove. These guys over here do not have good healthcare coverage, but they should be okay, especially over time. We have downgraded the hospital. It's still very expensive for 16 patients, isn't it? But it's fine. Again, it's a big part of the downtown. I don't really want to remove it. The same thing with these as well, like this medical university. Which I guess this will probably be bearing as an education expense, will it? It probably will be. Yeah, it is under the medical tab, so that's probably an education expense rather than a medical one. How about the disease control center? Where are you? Yeah, so this is a medical expense. But again, I really like it. This is such an important part of my downtown. It also has no upgrade, so we can't really save on that. So we're not removing that. Besides that, that is most of our medical facilities taken care of. There's one more here near the university, which again has upgrades it probably doesn't need, although there are 6 ambulances here, so it's not too bad, but 15 patients, so let's just remove its upgrades. We will keep a medical clinic over here, especially since we just removed one in Inverness, so that should hopefully bring that budget down. So with all those services removed, we are still over capacity, so let's now refer ourselves to the budget. And can we bring you down to, let's try 60, 66? How does that affect our operating ability? The crematorium availability is so low at the minute, I think just because we're experiencing that economy 2.0 death wave. I expect that to balance out, especially with the cemetery availability also being quite high. So that should be alright. What we'd like now, down to minus 536k. And let's have a little look what's going on here. Yeah, I think we're okay there now. Let's move on to garbage management, which I'm not sure what we're like for capacity. Way over. Massively over, in fact. So let's refer ourselves to the garbage processing facilities. First of all, we have one over here. The Big Boy Incineration Plant, which does have upgrades on it. And 54 of its vehicles are in use, actually, so they're definitely getting use out of them, aren't they? But I think even so, the capacity is insane, so it probably doesn't need the extra garbage trucks. It definitely doesn't need the extra incinerator, and certainly doesn't need the storage extension either. Let's turn all that off, and again, where we do get some of those spaces back, let's try satisfy some of our demands. We have very high industrial demand. And I think next episode, to help further improve the economy, we're going to build Egginburgh's oil refinery, which I always really enjoy. There's a big petroleum refinery unique I'd like to use. And we can also use the mods now to upgrade those retaining walls around this asset. I do love this incineration plant. It's a gorgeous asset, isn't it? And of course, that is actually also exporting electricity for us too. So that's quite good. We also have one over here. What are you doing, I wonder? You are a recycling centre. That has some upgrades. Let's delete the garbage truck extension. Probably doesn't need it. I do like this here. I guess it is getting at least some sort of usage, I suppose. So I think we'll keep that one in. And then we do have one more over here on the edge of town, don't we? Which again, just due to the insane capacity we have, I'm inclined to delete this one entirely. And then maybe we can just replace this industrial state here with some more of that zoning to keep trying to bring down this insane industrial demand. So let's just zone up the squares here, and we'll get some generic industry going. So that'll bring in some more jobs and more money, which is important. And then I think that's it for garbage processing, isn't it? I know there's one more site over in the port here, which is quite interesting. An industrial waste plant is very expensive. And a 250 vehicle capacity. Holy smokes, that is insane, isn't it? Yeah, look at that. 267 out of a 50,000 ton capacity, so just simply not needed. Just way too high capacity. And again, whilst we're near the port, we'll replace that with some generic industry. I don't really want those little awkward green spaces present, especially in an industrial port like this. So we'll also zone up around there as well. See if we can delete those and get them to regrow a bit better. There we go. Cool, so that'll save us a big chunk of upkeep on the garbage management, which is awesome. What are we down to now? 491,000. We are definitely bringing it down. So that should be alright. Yeah, the garbage processing status has just dropped way down now, hasn't it? So I don't think we can really afford to do any more with that. I did just notice this asset over here isn't really happy. This is a duplicated one. I wonder if that's a bug. Yeah, garbage piling up at this one. There are people able to get here. There's 567 employees here, actually. But I wonder if that's just a problem, the fact we place a signature building twice. I'm not entirely sure in the mall build we did a couple of episodes ago. Hopefully that'll just get picked up. There's a couple of garbage trucks around here. So maybe they're just not got there yet. We'll keep our eye on that as the episode goes on. But we can't really do much more with garbage management here now. That's great. Let's also move down the list now, so we don't want to change the budget there. Education and research. So this is an issue, just because of the demands we have. So, of course, this is going to affect our jobs and office demand, because we have basically not enough educated people. So we can't really reduce the funding here. Let's try and place in some of the new school assets. So we have the urban elementary school, which is 1,500 higher capacity than the regular one. So let's see if we can use this. Who in the city is not well educated with elementary? I mean, the people over here, but this is an industrial port. They really don't need it. I mean, it's not really kind of showing, is it? Can we do citizen education for building color? I mean, everyone's green. So I'm kind of wondering, are we left with a bug there, I wonder? Oh no, okay, here we go. Here we go. There are some less educated people over here, but that doesn't seem reflective of the deficit we have. We have a 16,500 capacity and 33,000 eligible. Well, where are those 33,000 people? Because the heat map isn't massively reflective of that, is it? Like, not at all. So let's try bring one of these schools in anyway. Where can we possibly put this? Let's have a little spot there, maybe. Let's remove some of this office space since we don't really use that office anymore and a lot of it is abandoned. So it brings us slightly up, doesn't it? We could also add the extra capacity there for 500. Yeah, so it certainly does fill up, doesn't it? Yeah, it fills up immediately, so I'm guessing that, is that heat map bugged? It doesn't seem particularly reflective of it. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one. Other than that, let's see if we can work one into the downtown as well. Why don't we remove a little bit of the low density over here? Let's have another high school there. Should regrow around the back. And again, we'll give the height upgrade as well. I want to make sure that actually fills up with people. 512 in there already. Yeah, okay, it's climbing. Looks like they will eventually get in there. And they're really nice, those new assets, aren't they? That actually sits in very well in downtown Edinburgh. Big fan of that. Happy days. Cool. So that should bring us up. Again, we've still got so much more to play. So let's also have a look at some of the other ones. So, I mean, we've even got all the upgrades on these as well, haven't we? Yeah, these are all full. In terms of the university, the one in Whiskey has a capacity upgrade. We can add an extension wing, and I guess that'll just fill up straight away again, will it? With people wanting to now go to university. I know we are increasing the education budget here, but it is all for the benefit of getting back into the green, which that upgrade does do. The next one is the college. Now, we only have one college in the city, I believe, don't we? We do indeed. The library is just a better chance of graduation. There's another college in the downtown as well, which again has its capacity upgrade. Yeah, so there are people, like, there's capacity here, but they're just choosing not to go. Or I guess they can't get there, maybe because of public transport connections. But yeah, we do only have 2 colleges in the city. I'm going to have to place down quite a few more to even get close to satisfying it, aren't we? Next up is high school, which I think we certainly need to address. So where could we bring in one of these? So I reckon we can get away with placing our urban high school here as part of the park. It's going to blend in quite nicely with the skyline. And of course, we'll take the upgrade, and we don't need the rooftop park. There's already way too many parks in Egginburgh. And then, okay, that's made a big difference, actually. So let's place another one of these. Maybe... Well, Inverness doesn't have a high school, does it? What capacity does the other one have? Yeah, I think we'll keep using the urban ones. And where can we place this? Is that going to sit and fit in that gap? I think it might. Let's remove a bunch of these buildings here. And then I reckon we can place our school. Fantastic. And again, let's give it the capacity upgrade. And that shouldn't look too out of place in Inverness there, I don't think. But that's okay, isn't it? I'm happy with that. That should make a big difference. There we go. So, well, we did have university in the green. It has dropped down again. In terms of other university buildings, this one does have capacity. But really, elementary school is just such a massive problem, isn't it? It really is. Let's see if we can place a small elementary school in this suburb as well. Does this one have a capacity upgrade? I'll have to remind myself. It does indeed. actually has 2 poppable extension wings. What does that take its capacity to? 600? That's not too bad. Brings us slightly up. And then I'd love to try and get another urban elementary school in, maybe over this side of the city, perhaps. Maybe we can respect a natural crawling height somewhere. That one looks pretty good there, doesn't it? Capacity upgrade. I wouldn't mind another one of these around this end of town either, actually, although I'd rather not destroy my row housing if possible. Maybe we'll have one here. Let's remove that pathway. And then we'll just let the commercial regrow around that plot. I actually wonder if it's at all possible. Do we have the room here? I think this might be a little bit too narrow, right? No, we can get 2 of them in. I'm just wondering, how do these look as a doubled up asset? It's actually pretty convincing, that, isn't it? If I do say so myself, it makes it look like one larger building, so possible natural fuse in there. And again, both of them to receive their upgrades. And I really like that. I think that really works, doesn't it? That brings us nearly into the orange. Awesome. So with that discovery of the fact these assets kind of work as a fusible block, why don't we also see if we can squeeze in another one maybe here? Let's get rid of you guys. And you do clash with my central bank there, though. Or how about on this corner instead? That's going to blend in quite nicely with the apartments around here, isn't it? And we'll give that capacity upgrade again, which pulls us just into the orange for elementary school. College, we're not going to be able to fix just yet because I'll have to place quite a few of them. I feel like we need a new college too. We're going to need to place 5 colleges, which is a lot of them. So I think we'll worry about college at a later date, but at least we have kind of brought our demands back in line a little bit now. So let's return back to our education here. So the service budget will affect the efficiency, with the efficiency affecting the graduation chance. So we can't really bring it down any further than that, can we? I don't think. Let's move on from education anyway. Let's dive into fire and rescue. Now, fire isn't a massive issue, really, across CS2. And it's also very expensive. So while we're here, let's have a look at this one, which is 528,000, which is a lot. So let's remove all of its upgrades. And then when we do reclaim that space behind, I would like to have some more zoning. And that significantly reduces the upkeep there, doesn't it? Where else do we have one of these? There's one over in Neg, which has 0 vehicles in use. So I think that's just too big for the town of Inverness, isn't it? So I think we'll replace that out with a small little dinky fire station. And then just to help try and bring some of these demands in line, because they're never ending. Let's bring in some low rent housing perhaps nearby to the tracks. So we don't want just endless rows of it. Let's try and at least plan out somewhere our blocks spawn in. How about that? And then can we give them a park? Maybe a little basketball court in between, or a tennis court rather. Maybe not tennis there actually, maybe let's try basketball instead. And then a little bit more commercial against the main street, I think. So turning back to the fire stations in Whiskey. Well, this one over here is part of a graveyard, so we can't really change that one. And this one here again is just fast, isn't it? And is so expensive for basically having no usage here. So I think we'll replace it out for a small firehouse again. I would like this part of the city to obviously have that service, so I don't want to totally remove it. And then we'll bring in more of that zone in there again too. That should dramatically reduce the fire upkeep budget. Let's come back to it. Still only a 21% fire hazard. So there's another one there. That's the one we already did, wasn't it? So with that in mind, and we now adjust the service fee. So let's bring it down. So it affects the citywide early disaster warning system. Well, disasters are a joke at the minute anyway, aren't they? So that's not really an issue. Well, let's try 70%. That'll bring the cost down significantly. Next up is the police force. Let's have a look at our police information. So we have no prison availability because we don't have a prison. and we have tons of jail capacity. So, and only 1% crime probability as well. With 100% success rate. That is interesting, isn't it? Criminals have 100% success rate in Egginburgh. So let's check out the police headquarters building here, which is really expensive again, and it doesn't need its upgrades. I don't want to remove the building because this is kind of part of my downtown design here, so I'd rather have the police headquarters in the inner city. But then I think beyond that, we can probably remove quite a lot of the upgrades off of the other stations. So why don't we get rid of you? We'll replace it with a small police station. And then a little bit more commercial in there as well. And we've got another police station over here, don't we? Let's have a little look at that. Does have some arrested criminals, but only 2 patrol cars. So let's delete it. We'll replace it with a small one. And we do have some more housing opportunities over here. So let's do big block of low rent. See if we can get that growing in there. I think these are low rent houses here, aren't they? They are indeed. Fantastic. I should bring our policing budget down quite a bit. And again, just due to the fact we don't really have that much crime, why don't we also reduce the funding down to 70%? That should see us through. We still have a lot of jail availability. The number of crimes per month is only 6, so it's not a lot, is it? Perfect. And I believe the education system is tied to crime, isn't it? If they don't go to school and just don't do anything with their lives, they will eventually turn to crime. So that should be alright. Transportation. I don't really want to change that because that affects how many vehicles we have in use, so they are important. Parks and Rec, I did bump that back up to 60% just because we had things like our Notre Dame has 0% maintenance. And keep it in good condition. Is that really a metric we need to worry about? It's still just a unique building, isn't it? Like, it's still giving me outdoor recreation. So I'm not really sure on that one. We are spending a lot on it, but I think that's okay. And then communications, it's not something we really spend a lot of time worrying about, is it? We do, of course, have post, and then there's the internet as well. We do have good telecoms coverage for the most part. And we do actually have mail service availability quite low. Although we do have very few post boxes in the downtown, so let's spam some of these around. So that increases the coverage. Then let's see if we can stick another post office down. So we have you over here. Inverness doesn't have one, does it? So why don't we bring one here? It'll actually sit and fit near perfectly where we had our buildings over this way earlier. So we'll have that there as well. How does that affect the coverage? Doesn't do a lot for it either, does it? I think telecoms is alright. I always get a lot of people tweet about how good internet they have, so I guess I'll wait and see. Noticing now we do have a lot of waiting for ambulance symbols, don't we? Which I'm guessing is a reduction of the healthcare budget, so let's bring that back up. Let's go for 80 on that one. I'm guessing now we just don't have enough ambulances knocking around. Guessing that's why that's probably happened. So that should tick over. And then that leaves us at minus 442,000. We are bringing it down. I think that's as good as we can get with reducing budgets across most of the services. So now let's return to our taxation and see what we can tax a little bit more of. So can we go for 12% on residential? We just have insane residential demand. What we like for unemployment, actually. 22%. It's not the worst the city's ever had. I guess we just need to satisfy some of that commercial and industry demand, don't we? And then in terms of other taxing, I'm guessing we can also tax our industry quite a bit more. I go for 13%. Just want to make sure whatever changes we make here aren't hammering our demands down this way. And we do make so much money from commercial, don't we? Can we push our luck with that? How about 12%? really doesn't affect the demand bar at all, does it? So 13. What does that bring our budget to? Minus 211,000 an hour now. Office demand, I'm a little reluctant to increase that, because if we were to have a look at our offices over here, for example. Oh, no, well then again, as I was about to say, Leto Electronics has actually moved back in. I'm guessing we just have overzoned office, probably. Okay, I'm keen to see how far we can push this. Push our residential up, and commercial is such a massive money maker. I don't know why that is. I don't know how we're making so much money from commercial in the city. I mean, like, where are our major commercial zones? I guess downtown Edinburgh is made up of quite a bit of commercial, isn't it? It's all low density though, isn't it? I don't think it'd really be in. I mean, I'm not going to complain. Oh, there we go. There we go. Commercial demand just fell. Is it going to go all the way down? It didn't go totally away, so I think I'm happy with that. How is that affecting happiness? High taxes is -4. But, you know, it's what you pay for all the parks, isn't it? There we go. Now it's totally disappeared, so that's too much. Let's bring that down to 14, and then we'll bump our residential up to 14 as well, I think. Which brings us down to 107,000, which is quite good now, isn't it? And we now are starting to see a change in that happiness, so I don't think we can push the taxes any further than that. I would, however, like to start upzoning some of the downtown. Oh, there we go. We can see that commercial demand slowly creeping back in. On what percentage is that? 14% commercial. It starts to slightly come back up, so I'm happy with that. Let's bump up that industry tax too. Let's go for 15% on that one, because that's just such high demand as well. But what I was originally going to say here was these row houses on the inner city, I would actually like these to now become apartments. Again, just to get some denser population in, which will mean more taxpayers. And it's also going to help adjust the skyline here too, which I'm not enormously happy with. It kind of falls away a little bit too quickly for my liking. So let's have some more apartment buildings in there as well. You can kind of see how that'll respect that crawl up to the skyline there, won't it? Holy smokes. Just as I say, fire isn't really a thing. Oh, do we have a car crash into it? Did that set fire to it? I think it did, didn't it? I wonder where the fire engine is. Oh, he's stuck on the... He's on the highway, stuck in a traffic jam. Yeah, there you go. He's on his way to the post facility now. That should be okay. Everyone's post is burning down. So I think to also help prepare for next episode's oil, I'd like to start producing some in the city anyway. There is a little pocket over here, just off of the highway, where we actually do have an entrance, where we can actually use one of the new roundabouts, maybe. There we go. That's pretty cute, isn't it? Where we could do very large trees. Yeah, we'll have that there. But regardless, I think just to help the city start producing some of that initial oil supply, which will, of course, be expanded next episode when we build a proper detailed refinery. I'd like to start placing down some oil, which of course will help satisfy our industrial demands, but also start helping us make a little bit of money as well. So let's just do a very basic setup here. We'll bring out a little alleyway road. And I haven't actually played much with oil industry yet at all in CS2. So let's grab our oil drilling. We'll have this in over here. Is that going to be alright? Let's do straight the way over here. So we'll set it up like that. Now, I've made my thoughts clear on the generic industries in CS2. Don't think they look the best. They definitely need the mods to settle them in. That's just going to give us, what, essentially these oil derricks across this sand texture, is it? I believe so. Only 9 employees here too. Let's have a look at our production deficit here as well. So it's not a huge amount. We still have a 3-ton deficit. Ian Tanner has been injured in a road accident and is just like lay on the floor. He's even tapping his foot while he waits for an ambulance. Hilarious. People are also walking over him as well. Oh, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's a child as well, apparently. You sure? Aged child? It doesn't look like it. So after a little bit more time has passed and we've let everything embed, we dropped to about 232 to minus 200,000. Now, because we have unlocked all tiles, we actually have a load of space here that we're paying for that we're obviously never going to use. So my city economy is essentially paying for the sea, which just makes no sense. It's why I really don't like this tile upkeep. So to help us out, we're essentially going to reduce the tile upkeep modifier in the settings here down to essentially, I mean, let's have a look, right? See if we can guesstimate it. So if we're going to fill the land masses, it's probably like 30% of the map we lose to water, right? So why don't we bring our tile upkeep down to 70%? That way, I'm at least just paying for the land. And that throws us just about into a positive of 109,000, which in the grand scheme of our economy of 1.6 billion isn't really that much, is it? So with that in mind, we'll have a look at our fees. There is our final upkeeps. Tile upkeep down to 19 million with that change to the upkeep slider. That is the 529 tiles mod that does that, by the way. Then service trade, service upkeeps up to 10 million and 6k. And that is our final tax rates with 13, 14, 14 and 10% left. And then the city is actually begging for industrial demand at the minute as well. So with that said, we will continue Egginburgh on with a 70% tile upkeep. There is actually a poll on the channel asking you guys how you're playing with this tile upkeep, so go vote on that. I'm quite curious to see how the community has kind of taken on this very strange new mechanic that, again, I've made my feelings very clear on before. I just don't think it was needed. Tile upkeep is such a strange mechanic. I think it's probably going to be patched to be less severe in the future, because to pay $28 million a month for the sea, it just makes no sense in terms of a city's economy. But whatever, we can agree to disagree and digress on this forever. Otherwise, there are a few builds remaining in Egginburgh. Like I said, we haven't really explored oil industry, but getting those set up today will at least allow us to start collecting a bit of a surplus so we can place the massive oil refinery unique signature building at next time, because I'd like to do kind of a big detailed oil refinery in a place we haven't built yet. I think that'd be quite cool, and also help us satisfy a little bit of that industrial demand that's also coming in as well. But otherwise, we won't have too long left in Egginburgh. Not only are we starting to complete everything I had in mind for the city, but the larger it gets, the worse the performance becomes. So maybe 3 or 4 weeks left in Egginburgh before we do say goodbye to it, and then continue on with our new build, Kokai, which is also on the channel as well if you're looking for a much more slower paced, detailed build using all the mods. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have managed to have some success in Economy 2.0. Let me know if you think I could have done anything differently today, or if there's anything I can do to just help increase Egginburgh's income without reducing the tile upkeep, because after everything we tried, managed to get to low as about 200 to minus 100,000, but that seems to be the threshold with 100% tile upkeep for this city. Massive shout out to all the patrons that support the channel, with a special roll call to Louis Adlam. Thank you so much for all your patron support, guys. That is linked down below alongside Instant Gaming. Otherwise, let's thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.